We're in conversation, a very impromptu conversation with none other than Tom Fountainhead GELDSCHLAGER. You will obviously know him from Obscura, as well as the Bits Minimum project, his own Fountainhead solo project, and loads of other things. And right now, he's in India for a masterclass with Vishal J. Singh of Amogh Symphony, organized by Roster, which is happening on the 25th at Benchmark Studios in Mumbai. So, Tom, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing really good. Just watched a couple of really good Indian bands and just getting to know the place, enjoying myself, like fighting off the jet lag. So yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you.
So is it your first time over here?
Unfortunately, it is my first time. I was planning to come way earlier, but like all of those plans at some point evaporated. So I'm really glad to finally be here in India after many years of trying.
Right. So, for those who may not have an idea of the kind of masterclasses that you do, or who may not attend the upcoming masterclass, what exactly is it that you're going to share in classes like these to aspiring musicians?
Oh, so many things. Especially since Vishal and I are going to split up the entire time, so it's going to be over 5 hours of content altogether. So we're going to make people's brains explode with info. So usually what I do is I'm going to mix in a little bit of guitar information, and I'm going to play a full set of music from my back catalog, analyze some things that I'll be playing, like some guitar solos and some, just things that I think are important to show people as an example for maybe doing things differently than they would normally do, showing them a couple of ways to expand their playing, to expand their creative horizons, giving them a couple of ways to expand their creative boundaries in terms of composition, and how to work in the music business, how to interact with people as a musician, stuff like that. Now, since we are doing this as a duo thing with Vishal, I think he's gonna cover most of the music business and production side of things, and I'm gonna concentrate more on guitar, so that we don't repeat ourselves too much. So it's going to be action-packed for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think the biggest surprise between you guys is that you joined Amogh Symphony in the first place. So just tell us how that came about.
It came about really naturally because I've been a fan of the band for a long time. I think everybody listening to like progressive metal, instrumental metal in the first place needs to be a fan of Amogh Symphony, what Vishal has done in the past. So I've been aware of what he was doing, and then because I play with a keyboard player called Jimmy Pitts quite a lot, and we do a lot of projects together over the years. Vishal and I both played on one of his albums, and so because we did that, we started like chatting on Facebook and just saying hello and being friendly. And that turned into a couple of things that I did. He invited me to play on some movie soundtrack stuff, and I invited him to contribute a remix to the deluxe CD version of my solo album, which turned into more of a collaboration thing. It's like much more than a remix, and I'm really happy how that turned out. So we realized we worked really well together, and then he invited me to contribute a guest solo to the upcoming Amogh Symphony album, and that was when there was still a fourth band member, the drummer originally, Jim, and so then Jim exited from the band during production,
right.
And so yeah, then Vishal asked me whether I want to contribute more, and I contributed quite a lot. So that was that, and so he said, "Yeah, you want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah."
Sweet.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of Amogh Symphony as well, and all the teasers that I've seen so far, especially the album artwork, it looks completely different from like the like technical machine-oriented lyrics and music that he was doing before. So since Vishal isn't here right now, could you tell us what we could expect from this new album and how different it'll be?
Basically, the entire album was comprised of samples of us farting and burping and rubbing our penises together.
What? Come on.
Nah. So what you just described, in terms of the artwork and the overall presentation, makes perfect sense, because the album has a very natural, very, like, dare I say, effortless flow to it. It's like really Really different from the machine-like and like super strict sound that he was going for at an earlier time. So it has a very naturalistic, a very down-to-earth sound, I think. Lots of different colors of sound, lots of different influences and different moods and places where the music just breathes effortlessly. I think I'm a big fan of it. I think I'm allowed to say that it's fantastic because I didn't contribute to the initial writing that much, so
okay.
I can still like talk as a fan. I think it's a very beautiful album. It's not. There's still metal. Obviously, there's definitely metal stuff, but it has lots of different moods that you would normally not find on a metal album. I'm a total metal kid. I love metal. I grew up with metal, but one of the things that always bugged me about metal was that it's emotionally often, not always, one-dimensional. And I think this album is very multi-dimensional so tons of different stuff happening. It always keeps you on your toes. It's surprising, it's beautiful, sometimes it's silly. Okay. There's humor in it, which I think is really important. It's a positive album, it's not a negative album, I think. So I think all of that really came together really beautifully.
Right. And so apart from Amogh Symphony, what are you up to back in Europe with your more like close to home projects? Anything on the solo front or Pits Miniman or anything else?
Definitely not a Pits Miniman thing, even though we would love to do another one, but it's a nightmare to schedule. I'm definitely planning to do another solo album later this year. Lately I've been on tour with a band called Defeated Sanity. We did a really long US tour in the winter. I've been working with them for a bit. I've done a lot of mixing and mastering stuff back home, and I wrote a book.
Oh. Okay, yes. Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
The book is called Fear is the Enemy, named after my first solo album. And the subtitle is, what was the subtitle? Oh, I forgot my own subtitle. No, the subtitle is, I forgot the subtitle.
Yes, forget about it.
So it's about mental strength, it's about techniques that you can use as a musician that I think are really important for you as a musician to navigate your place in the world, how to deal with rejection, frustration, auditions, the infamous red light fever that you get in the studio, all these high pressure situations. It's not about playing, it's not about the physical aspect, it's about everything except the physical aspect. Because I think music education right now is kind of in a rut where it's about on YouTube and people can have access to so much information, but it's very physical and it's very it doesn't focus on the spiritual.
It's either about the technique or the business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. It's either about the technique or the business. And so this book is hopefully covering everything in between. There's a lot of my personal story, of my personal struggle in the past in the book, as an example, I can still serve as a bad example, if nothing else. So, how I've overcome certain situations, certain hardships, and certain illnesses of the spiritual and the mental kind, how you deal with all those sorts of stuff, because it's really important. I've coached so many guys over the years. I teach a lot and do these masterclasses, and when people come to me and they're asking for my help in musical terms, they usually come to me and they say something like, okay, I want to learn this technique and I want to work on my sweeping and I want to work on this. But when you dig a little deeper and go beyond that with them and get close to what is actually blocking them, the blockages that have built up in front of them, then it's never the technique. It's never the technique and it's never the business. It is, or let me phrase it in a different way, the technical blockage that they think they have are always just a manifestation of their own internal mental blockages.
Oh, okay.
Right, and so this book is sort of like an extension of the things I teach, where it's about intense focus, spiritual work, housekeeping of the mind, so to speak, not letting yourself be influenced by certain things too much, how to work with your energy, your creative energy, your flow, your inspiration, and your creativity. I think that's it in a nutshell. It's a little bit more than a nutshell, but yeah.
Yeah, and what I've heard so far about this book is really unique because, like you said, you don't often see a lot of people focusing on the mental aspect of being a musician. And as we've seen in a lot of the news and in like statistics, musicians can get depressed real quick. I mean, forget about the current climate of, quote unquote selling music or quote unquote making a living out of music. Just the act of making music and trying to sort a gig itself can be so mentally overwhelming. So do you think that aspect, like mastering the mental and emotional aspect of being a musician, should be the first priority before you go into the technique, before you go into the business?
I think it should come all together. Like it shouldn't be the first aspect, because obviously, first of all, you have to build your technique and you have to build your repertoire and you have to start playing with people and making acquaintances and just build your own way. But what I've seen happen is that people do exactly that, and then there's like a fork in the road and they get blocked, they get stuck, and they get depressed, and they forget why they've done it in the first place, like why they fall in love with music, what they're trying to communicate, or they don't even realize that music is language, that music is communication. And this, I think, for people who are in that situation, who've already built their technique, who've already done, like paid their dues in the music business, but they don't know how to get further, how to get to where they want to go, I think this book might be giving an alternative solution, I hope.
Right. And finally, like I said, it's so hard to maintain a band and a musical project in this climate in 2018. And obviously, everyone in the metal sphere knows the troubles that you had with Obscura and all that other stuff. But we're not going to go into that. What I'm going to go into is, what is the biggest piece of advice you would give to a band to keep themselves going in this climate, to keep themselves going in this era of streaming and low output and money shares from sales and stuff like that in this current climate?
Oh, no pressure.
Say whatever you want. I mean,
well, I think it all comes down to, why are you doing this in the first place? Like, are you really doing this for the love of music? Are you really doing this to communicate something that's deep inside you? Are you doing this to share something that needs to be shared, to say something that needs to be said? And if you're not doing that, what do you expect in return? I think there's so many things that of practical advice. You can go this way, you can go that way, you can try this platform, you can go, search for professional management, you can try keeping everything in-house, do your own production. All of these things are helpful to make money and to maybe along the way make a living of music. And everybody knows that. But I think it's a deeper problem because music gets devalued so rapidly right now, and we have an output of music that's like unparalleled. There's so much music out there like never before. And at the same time, so many people are frustrated and so many people are losing their connection to why they're doing it in the first place, because there's less of everything. So there's less of the pie for every band out there, because there's more bands, more artists, there's less money, so everybody gets a smaller piece of the pie.
Right.
And the smaller the piece of the pie gets, the mental problems and the frustration with being in the music business gets higher and bigger and bigger. And that's why you see, especially in the metal scene, you see so much fakery. You see guitarists speeding up their guitar parts. Everybody is looking basically for a way to avoid rejection. That's basically what it is. It's a fear of losing out. It's a fear of being rejected by people. It's a desperate cry for attention. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why are people getting so desperate? Because the pie is getting smaller and smaller, and people are desperately clinging to their last piece of the pie. And oftentimes, I've seen it happen that they really lose their focus on why are they doing this in the first place. And when they stop communicating important things, and when they stop communicating what's inside of them to their audience, on some level, everybody's realizing that and loses interest. And so it's like this perpetual downward spiral, and we have to find a way to counteract that. I think I'm getting really abstract here, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so basically you reaffirmed to yourself why are you doing this in the first place, and actually be sure of that.
Yeah, and I can tell you, like going back to the Obscura thing, if you're in a situation like that, where you're basically being badmouthed in like every major metal magazine, and like there's a guy running around claiming that he recorded all of your guitar parts, all of these kind of things, which are like publicly known by now. Yeah. If you're in a situation like that, it either breaks you or it makes you stronger. And in my case, I was, I think it took a while to get over that, to not be affected by it. But then I realized that I can actually draw a lot of strength from that, and that I can actually see it as a gift. Just like the birth of my children was a gift, or like every album I've ever did was a gift, because there's so many lessons I learned from that, and it enabled me to be so much more relaxed. It's like a life or death situation. You know, what do you do now? It molds you, and you get stronger, and you get wiser, and you get more relaxed, and that kind of shit can't hurt you at some level. And I think. For me, that has been really positive, and also made me reconnect with my roots, and to help me realize that I'm doing this for the music, for my love of music, and that will never change. And it also helps you realize that status and fame, or whatever these kind of artificial constructs, that people throw into the discussion if you're talking about music, what they want to accomplish, chicks and all of these kind of things. That's just an illusion. It's just bullshit, And when it's being taken away for a moment, or you think it's getting away, and you're getting into these kind of troubles, then it really makes you think like, why am I doing this in the first place? Should I stop? Should I just let somebody walk all over me and shit over what I've done? And I realized that no, not at all, because like what I do speaks for itself, and this is my way of communicating, and I'm actually more confident now after all of this happened in communicating what I think I have to communicate. So I'm thankful. I'm really thankful that happened.
No, that's great. That's a really positive attitude to bring it to it.
It took me a long time to get there, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't come easy. Okay, well, thanks a lot for talking to us, Tom. We wish you the best of luck with the masterclass and your India trip, and anything else that you may have in the pipeline, whether it be Amogh Symphony or everything else. Thanks again, Tom.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for tuning in to the YouTube channel of The Backbeat. If you like what you saw, why not like, share and subscribe? And if you want to see more content of the coolest independent music in India, be sure to follow our main WordPress blog, as well as our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. See you next time.